Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George, or all George. So, the United Nations, the UN, sends a stern and dire warning to Fed Chair Powell and central banks around the world. And this is about the rate hikes. So, what is this? What does this mean? Is Powell going to listen? Are other central banks going to listen? Well, let's talk about it and talk about how this affects Bitcoin and crypto. All right, let's get started. Smash up the like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Get notified of all my streams. Follow me on social media. Check out CryptosRUs.com and make sure you follow all of my channels. All right, welcome, guys. You know what? Bitcoin had a little upward movement today. We're at 19.6. The U.S. market did really well today. Dow up 765 points. Tomorrow pre-market is looking green right now. I think the only stock that sold off today was Tesla. It was down like 8%. And that's because they missed some delivery numbers, but I do think a lot of traders kind of panic a little too much. Even though they missed their estimate, they still deliver like more than 30% over their delivery for last year. So I mean, still a huge improvement. But anyways, today overall was a pretty good day. But we get this. So is this good or bad? So the UN sends a warning to this guy right here, Fed Chair Powell, Fed, and all central banks around the world, telling everyone to cool it with the rate hikes. You guys know I've been covering these rate hikes for quite a long time. In the U.S., we're about up to 3%, and Fed Chair Powell wants to get up as high as 4.6%. So that's another 1.5%. But the UN is warning, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And not only them, everywhere. They're warning Europe. They're warning UK. They're warning everyone that's been trying to tackle inflation with these rate hikes. Well, the UN says stop it. And the reason being, they're saying all these countries, including the US, will send the globe into recession. We're going to have a global recession due to all the countries, specifically the rich countries, according to them, raising all the rate hikes. It's going to basically destroy the economies of the poor and developing countries, and the UN tells everyone to stop it. Rather than try to send the whole world into recession to try to curb inflation, let's work together to improve supply chain issues. That's what they're saying, and I've been saying that too. Right? There's two ways to curb inflation. Either decrease demand by making people really poor or increasing supply, which you don't really hear about at all because the central banks really can't do anything about that. But there's other things that countries could do to increase production, right? So that is what the UN is warning. They're warning U.S. This could be the reason why today people were asking me, there was a surprise meeting. The FOMC governors got together today and they were going to talk about something. Could have been this. Maybe the UN did tell them about this and they have to reevaluate. It could be about Credit Suisse and maybe how to prepare if they go under, right? Who knows? But this is a pretty big warning, wouldn't you say? Pretty big warning. And it's not just them. The IMF, obviously, I'm no fan of IMF, and I don't think anyone is, but they're saying the same thing. They're saying, you know what, we don't want the globe to go in recession, right? So yeah, this is out of nowhere. So what does this mean overall? Is the U.S. going to listen? Well, according to Fed Williams, says that in the U.S. we got a lot more to go, meaning we got a lot more rate hikes before we really cool down inflation, right? But Fed Chair Powell has said in his press conference that the decisions that he and the other governors make not only affect the U.S., but also affect the whole world. And he pays attention to that, right? So does that mean we may not get a 75 basis point hike for the next two months? Is he going to be more dovish because of this warning or request from the UN? Or is he going to ignore them and say, hey, we got our own issues and we're just going to tackle our own issues? Thank you very much. We don't know. We don't know, right? Again, this is out of like left field. I don't know how all the central banks around the world are going to really take this. We know that outside the US, UK, suffering from high inflation. They have their own issues right now with their currencies devaluing. The Eurozone, same thing, high inflation, 10%, right? Both the ECB and the Bank of England are both looking to raise rates. Are they going to stop because of this request? Again, too early to tell, right? But very, very interesting that the UN would come out with this. But with that said, how does this affect Bitcoin? Well, I've been saying more and more people are learning about how money works, how their governments work, how their central banks work, and more people are getting fed up, quite honestly. So that's how that's how it affects Bitcoin in a good way. And if the U.S. and other countries actually listen to the UN and actually becomes more dovish with their rate hikes, you know what that's going to do? That's going short term, it'll probably send markets rallying upwards, which is what we want to see. If we get dovish rate hikes, that's going to be good for markets short term. Long term, as inflation continues to go out of control, I don't know. That's going to be pretty bad, right? So again, it's a very, I guess, fluid thing that's going on. But more and more people are turning to Bitcoin because they don't want to know all this. They don't care about this and or they're fed up with all this. So this is interesting. This is measuring how many people are actually withdrawing or selling their ETFs. And it shows how many funds are actually selling their Bitcoin because people are selling the ETF shares. Well, according to this, in Q3, the money flowing out of these ETFs slowed down by 97%. So in Q2, there was a massive exodus of Bitcoin from these ETFs. Okay, 683 million to be exact. And in this last quarter that we just came out of, only 17.6 million. So that's a 97% drop. So what does that mean? No one is looking to sell their ETF shares anymore. No one is looking to sell Bitcoin right now. The retail investors that came into the space that didn't quite understand what they're getting into, didn't quite understand what Bitcoin's all about, and they wanted to just make a quick buck, they all left. The people that are left right now in this space are the people that truly understand. So this is very, very positive, as it shows that not many people are selling, and the price could be manipulated still day to day, week to week, but overall the long-term holders continue to gain strength and continue to grow. And not only that, I've been telling you guys, watch out for these big guys. They'll say one thing and do another. So now there's a new study surveying banks, and the banks that they surveyed, and there's not a lot of banks, they only surveyed 19 banks. Imagine how many banks are around the world, but only 19 banks that they surveyed admitted they had $9.2 billion worth of crypto. That's only 19 banks. And did these banks disclose before? Probably not. So just gives you a sample of how much is being bought behind the scenes, okay? Even though, like I said, day-to-day volatility still exists and people don't believe anyone's buying. But trust me, these big boys, they know crypto's not going to go away. What they're doing is accumulating behind the scenes. And many of these big boys could be the ones behind the price manipulation, because what do they like to do? They like to misdirect, point you in that direction while going in this direction. So say all the negative things but be buying behind the scenes, right? That's what I believe is going on. And the fact that BlackRock is now involved, well, tells you something, okay? If BlackRock openly admits that they are invested in Bitcoin and offering Bitcoin services, that tells you how much they already accumulated, okay? And then Fidelity and everyone else that's involved, these are big giants, So another reason why you want to stay with Bitcoin and crypto, because these large institutions are gobbling up everything, and you don't want to sell your life-changing wealth to them. Okay, that's what they're trying to do. You don't want to fall for it. Also, looking at this, 6-month-old Bitcoins now take about 74% of the realized cap. So what this is basically measuring is, if you look at the previous bottoms, this is an awesome time to buy. That's really what you need to know. It's very similar to the 2015 bottom and the 2019 bottom. Okay, so that's what this is saying, and that's what this is saying too. The number of Bitcoin that has not moved in over a year at 62%, all-time high. Every time you have a large amount of holders just holding and not selling, that's usually when a bottom is formed, right? So these are all fantastic things. Fantastic things that's going on right now. All right. Now, outside of Bitcoin, there's some positive news from some altcoins. Some are big fans of Elrond, have asked me about Elrond. I haven't really paid attention to him much. Don't know what is going on, but there's a couple big things that are very bullish. Number one is Romania, speaking of central banks, Romania's central banks approves Elrond purchasing this TwistPay. And this TwistPay is an e-money institution. And why this is important is they control the likes of Visa and MasterCard for within Romania. So they actually control a lot of the e-transmitting. And the fact that Elrond basically bought that means that Elrond is going to get involved with a lot of the e-payment, e-transmission services within the country. That's pretty big. Right? And also, they've been upping their DeFi gains. Before, they only had a Mayor DEX. Now they have another one. This is still in the DevNet called AshSwap. This is, to me, equivalent of like Curve Finance within Elrond. It's basically a DEX for trading stable coins, just like Curve, right? So they're still expanding out. So it does show that Elrond is still growing and good things are happening. So good for Elrond. Now, something else that's very positive is Cardano. After the Vassal hard fork, the gas fees have decreased by half, but the transactions have gone up, has sped up by 10x. But let me clarify. It didn't really speed up by 10x, but the data that usually is required for transmission of something like a trade or something like that. Basically, the volume of a data has gone down by 10x. So basically, the size of something being transmitted across the network decreased by 90%, and the gas fees got cut by 50%. So that's a pretty big win if you think about it, right? It's just that not many people have taken advantage so far. So I was looking at how much TVL is locked in, only about 75 million, which is really, really small. Some of these DEXs, like Sunday Swap, made a big deal when they came out, and some of these other ones, right, they have not taken advantage of what happened to Vassal, but when they do, it could be a very positive thing overall. All right, so that is pretty much it. There's a couple macro stuff that I saw as scary, so I'm just going to mention it. I'll probably talk about it more in the morning. Number one is there's supposedly nuclear weapons that's being moved right now by Russia, right? So they made threats recently talking about using nuclear defense against Ukraine, right? So I don't know what that's all about. It's just an empty threat. China kind of did the same thing when Pelosi visited Taiwan. They threatened to shoot the plane out of the air. They were doing missile testing. Nothing actually happened. Is this one of those things, or is Putin crazy enough to do something? I don't know at this point. Ukraine obviously is still in high alert. Elon made the mistake of coming out with what he thinks will happen in order to get peace. And this one Ukrainian ambassador told, he got really pissed off. He told F you to Elon, and then he said no one will buy your effing Tesla crap. Seems like he forgot about Elon going out of his way to send Starlink antennas and providing internet access. When Zelensky asked for it, it seems like that just went all went up. So I don't know why he got so mad. It's not like Elon really said this has to happen. It's just his opinion. So I don't know what's going on. And again, everyone's on high alert, high pressure. North Korea fires missile over Japan for some reason. No idea why this is happening. So these are all bad things. Very, very bad things. And then lastly, Ben Simmons takes the court again. And I was watching this. I thought this would only show like good stuff about Ben Simmons. Like here, he goes for a fast break dunk. And then on the next clip shows him trying to do a fadeaway jumper. And I thought that would go in, but no, it just that was just a horrible shot. So that's also bad. Just wanted to bring that up as well. All right, guys, that is pretty much it. Overall market cap is up slightly today. We'll see if it continues. But this warning from the UN, we'll see how the Fed responds to it. All right, let's do some Q&A. Sin City Crypto. Hey, guys. By the way, Sin City Crypto is a new up-and-coming channel. They asked nicely, so I said, what the hell? I'm going on their show tomorrow, so if you want to learn more about crypto, tune in. Let's see what I missed here. Michael asked, do you think the OTC market is why we never made 100K? Seems like any whale purchase. No. Well, if we didn't have OTC market, do I think things will be better? I would say, I don't know, because it goes both ways. There are large whales that probably dumped that we didn't see because it was also done in OTC market, right? So I don't think that's the real reason. I think why we didn't make it to 100K is due to lack of preparation of the Fed, what the Fed decided to do, right? Basically at the beginning of the year, decided to turn really hawkish, decided to really try to battle inflation. I think many people were predicting that maybe they would have waited a little bit longer, because look at how long it took the ECB to have the very first rate hike. It was like only a few months ago, right? And same thing with the UK. UK had a couple rate hikes, but still nowhere near aggressive as the US. And I think that caught markets by surprise. But in the long run, probably better that we started early, because many people think we should have started even earlier than we did. We should have started in 2021. And had we done that, right, maybe we never would have seen 64, 69,000. Tuesday Dragonfire, appreciate it. Saw that. Orion Protocol Whale. Would you consider that many of these large caps alts are still extremely overpriced in relation to previous bear markets? No, I would not make that correlation at all, because you have to pay attention to what's been happening now versus before. Just because previous bear markets alts sold off a lot more doesn't mean that it has to follow. And the reason being because the environment is totally different. We didn't have TVL. We didn't have DeFi. We didn't have people locking in their crypto within liquidity pools or staking. Like these things that actually help people HODL and not just panic sell their bags, these things didn't happen and they didn't exist back in previous cycles, which is the reason why Bitcoin dominance is so low right now. So no, you can't think of it like that. Thinking about buying a bag of XRP, is there a good educational video I could watch? Stan, you can't make it so obvious, man. You know, it has to be a surprise. You know, I can't just like show the educational video all the time, you know. I only show it like once a year at most. Leave Ben Simmons alone, give the guy a chance. That's a legit fadeaway. Watch Japan news. Wow. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is with North Korea. I don't know why they decided to just fire a missile for no reason. South Korea, President Powell's stern response to North Korean missile launch. Again, I don't know what made North Korea do it. By accident or doing it on purpose right now because they're talking with Russia, trying to cause more fear. I don't know what's going on there. Just out of the blue. Near Protocol or Solana? Right now? I don't know. It's a tough one. Near Protocol tends to do good things and then bad things. Like, I've seen Near Protocol go on these tremendous runs upwards, and then boom, they go down, right? Really hard too. So I don't know. I think they're both decent projects. I would still lean more on Solana at this point, but Near is definitely a good one to hold too. Why do you think ADA didn't get any kind of pump from the fork? I don't know. The fork happened at the worst time. So we had some bad news. And then there was a lot of manipulation because after the ETH merge, the whales started dumping. So that kind of messed things up, I think, for Cardano. Veet says, you were just talking negative on Solana the other day. I think people, okay, some people need to like get in their head. Just because I talk negative about a project doesn't mean I hate on it. There's too many people that don't understand that thinks that if you like a project, you can only say good things about it. I say plenty of negative things about Cardano, about Ethereum. I even talk bad things about Bitcoin sometimes. But bag holders get so pissed off. So whenever I talk some bad thing about someone, and they're like, oh, yeah, you must hate them. And you know, you're creating FUD and you're just shilling these other coins. That's not the case. You have to be objective. You can't be a Solana fan and just say, yeah, having 8 network outages in a year is okay. You know, it's perfectly fine. No, you have to recognize that there's a problem there, right? So, Veet, understand that just because you like a project doesn't mean that you can't say anything negative about them at all. Sometimes you got to be objective and admit it. No, you're not curious on my stance because you know I'm calling you out because you're probably one of those guys that said, oh, George, we're spreading FUD because you're so desperate at protecting your Solana bag and you're trying to, you know, you're trying to stir something up. So I'm clarifying. Oh. I have an XRP tattoo. I do, but I can't show you guys that. I have a tramp stamp of XRP's logo. So can't show that on YouTube. Eternus says, what bad things have I said about BTC? I've said this about BTC when Michael Saylor said that Ethereum is a security because it's making changes. It makes changes to its protocol. So that means Ethereum has to be a security, right? But he ignores the fact that Bitcoin has upgrades too. So does that mean Bitcoin is a security based on that definition? No, so I've said that before. So, you just have to recognize these. Sometimes you just got to recognize them. You can't be too one-sided. Well, you could. But I think it's better to just, kind of recognize these things. It's okay to talk bad things about projects occasionally. Doesn't mean that you can't support it. It doesn't mean that you can't be diversified. It seems like Solana guys have to pick on Cardano guys. Cardano guys have to pick on Solana guys. There's no reason why you can't own both, right? It's not like you have to choose one or the other. That's why being diversified, I think, is still the best course. Pick all the great projects that you believe in, right? And just stick with it. Let's see. Super Doge founders are open and transparent, not a scam. That's coming from an account labeled Super Doge, so I don't know if I could believe that statement. Are you ever planning to team up with Benjamin Cohen and James for DCA Friday videos? If they ask me, but they haven't asked me, so the answer is no. I met Ben at Miami. Kind of explained the whole situation, and he was pretty cool at the time. I don't know. So I don't know if he really was cool or he just acting that way towards me. But, I told him his whole situation. If they want me back, just ask. Recently, there's been more channels asking. I'm like, what the hell? I'm bored. Why not? Just talk crypto overall. Help people get educated and stay strong and focused. That's what all of us are trying to do, I think. The ones that don't have their own agendas. I mean, basically anyone on YouTube talking about crypto, is trying to encourage people to stick with it, to understand, to learn, either from a TA perspective or a development standpoint, from an NFT standpoint, from a trading or holding standpoint or a macro perspective, right? Everyone's doing their own thing. As long as people are keeping people focused and on point, then it's a good thing. Jesse, I mean, yeah, that's CTO Larson. That's who you're talking about. I mean, it was a good interview. It started out slow, but I mean, I think he hasn't done much interviews. So, but overall, that's basically what we were saying. Isn't there a big West Coast crypto convention coming up with people like Saylor and Liz Alden? I don't know. I don't know how people keep up with all these crypto conferences. Because quite frankly, it seems like every week there's another one. And I have no idea how people get notified or even find out about them. Any thoughts on Vet DeFi? You know what? I haven't heard much about some of the new DeFi projects on Vet. Hopefully I do hear more. I mean, their TVL is not that good either. I mean, Cardano's only at 75 million. I think VeChain is probably even less. Yeah, VeChain's TVL is only at 3.5. So they really need to ramp up their DeFi, which they have not. The more DeFi there is, the more liquidity gets locked in, and the better overall. Because VeChain actually is not inflationary. VThor tokens are, but VeChain is actually a governance token that has a set supply. So if you get more people to stake within liquidity pools and stuff like that, it's only going to help. So, But they are making progress with other things right now, especially in marketing, still partnerships. But I'd love to see more DeFi projects come aboard. And they're moving to their POA 2.0, which will also help them. Do you think Japan could beat up North Korea? I don't know the situation. Do they have an army now? After World War II, I was always told they don't have an army. And then I was told they do have an army. So I don't know if they could defend themselves. Or the U.S. is pledging to help Japan if someone attacks. I'm really out of that loop, so I need to learn more about it. USA did not blow up Nord Stream 2. Okay, don't spread that rumor. They have a defensive force. Well, they probably don't have nukes. But I don't know. I don't think North Korea right now is crazy enough to use nukes. I don't think anyone is crazy enough to use nukes. I mean, why would you? You basically you're setting World War III, and it's going to destroy everything. Then there's nothing to gain. So I don't quite get it. Unless one of these countries are being invaded and they're going to get taken over, then I understand as a last resort, they're just going to go try to bomb everyone. But up until that point, I don't know. The U.S. and NATO definitely blew it up. Neo-patriots, come on, man. Do you think a good CPI number can start a bull run? Yes. Yes, I do think so. If we see inflation for, let's say, in August going down, because we'll get that reading soon. If we see that CPI turn really negative, especially the core inflation, because core inflation has been the one that's been going up. If core inflation somehow stops or comes down in a surprising manner, it's going to jumpstart things in a big way. And we could see it, especially we're at the end of the year. People are more jolly, right? Year-end stuff happening could happen. Maybe it doesn't happen, but then the Fed listens to the UN and does it anyways. Just decreases rate hikes. That's a possibility. All right, guys. I'll let you go. Overall, UN sends a stern and dire warning to the Fed saying, cut it out. Cut it out. Stop being so strong. Stop raising your rates. And not only the Fed, but every country around the world to stop, because they do believe the globe is going to go into recession if not. So are they going to listen? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. All right, guys, smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys tomorrow bright and early, 8:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Have a good night. Take care. Bye-bye.